This story is called Mrs. Packletide's Tiger, and it was penned by Saki during times when awareness about the need to protect wildlife and the environment was very little. It pokes fun at the upper-class people of the Victorian society who exploited the wildlife to satisfy their own desires of power and greed. But before we go on to read and discuss this story, here's a little something about the author himself. Now, this story was written by Hector Hugo Munro, who wrote under the pen name of Saki. He was a British writer himself, famous for his stories that mocked the society and the culture of his day. He was considered as the master of short stories. Some of his best works include Beasts and Super Beast, When William Came, The Toys of Peace, The Open Window, and The Unrest Cure, Esme. The splendid twists and tales in his literary works made Saki the master of what is known as the short story, and some of his best-known fictions are, like I said, The Open Window before and Mrs. Packletide's Tiger. This is a satirical story that tells us about Mrs. Packletide, who endeavors to shoot a tiger just to outdo her rival Luna Bimberton. It was Mrs. Packletide's pleasure and intention that she should shoot a tiger. Not that the lust to kill had suddenly descended on her, or that she felt that she would leave India safer and more wholesome than she had found it, with 1 fraction less of wild beast per million of inhabitants. The compelling motive for her sudden deviation towards the footsteps of Nimrod was the fact that Luna Bimberton had recently been carried 11 miles in an aeroplane by an Algerian aviator and talked of nothing else, only a personally procured tiger skin, and a heavy harvest of press photographs could successfully counter that sort of thing. So in this part of the story, we are introduced to the main character, Mrs. Packletide herself. Now, this lady is very much keen on hunting a tiger. You see that she did not want to shoot a tiger for a thrill or a desire to rid India of this big cat, no. Nor did she suddenly develop a fancy of, the activity of hunting, but her actual intention was to settle the scores with a lady called Luna Bimberton. Here, Mrs. Packletide is compared to Nimrod, a biblical character who was a mighty hunter. Well, she wants to do something that will outshine Luna's achievement. Now, Luna had been recently flown around for 11 miles by an Algerian pilot, and she has been boasting about it for days on end. In those times, this act was considered a daring and a brave one. Here the author implies that it was only Luna Bimberton's greed for fame that made her do it. We can agree with this because the story is set in those times where aeroplanes had just been invented and flying was considered to be an act of, extreme luxury. Also, they were not very reliable and comfortable modes of transport back in the day, but certainly indicated one's power and wealth in society. And this is exactly why Luna Bimberton took that trip. But Mrs. Packletide gets outdone herself by whom and why? Tutormate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store.